And just a little housekeeping again, everyone, please, if you are not speaking, if you could kindly turn off or mute yourself, that would be great. And again, just a reminder that this event is being recorded. So that we just want to make you aware of.
When it's live show.
Yes, we'll go live in about a minute or so, and I'll hand it off to you, Dawn, after. I'll just make one more announcement that it is being recorded, and if everyone can turn off their microphone. All right, well, one more minute and we'll get started as folks are coming in. All right, we'll get started. Just want to make a few announcements that the program is being recorded, so please be mindful of that. Also, please, again, if you're not speaking, turn off or mute yourself so that we don't get any feedbacks. And with that, I'll let Dawn take over from here. Dawn, the floor is all yours.
Thank you very much, Joe. Hello, and welcome to the second in a two-part series highlighting Connecticut's biopharma footprint. I'm Dawn Hocevar, President and CEO of BioCT, whose mission is to support the growth and success of the biopharma industry in Connecticut. I'd like to welcome everybody here. This webinar is being presented in co-partnership between BioCT and Pharma, and also the Connecticut Bipartisan Bioscience Caucus. I'd like to thank Advanced CT for hosting the Zoom meeting. And I'd also like to, and thank BIO, the Biotechnology Innovation Organization, for sponsoring this event. Next slide show, please. So a lot of people put this event together, and I want to thank BioCT's Government Affairs Committee for their stewardship of this event. And as you can see from this slide, the committee is represented by Semaphore, Eli Lilly, Pfizer, Regeneron, AbbVie, UConn, Alexion, BMS, FML, Boehringer Ingelheim, Yale, Rome Smith Lutz, and CSL Behring. Next slide, please. So the co-chairs of the Connecticut Bipartisan Bioscience Caucus include Senator Christine Cohen, Senator Tony Huang, Representative Jonathan Steinberg, and Representative Dave Yaccarino. If any of you are on the call today, I'd like to give you a few moments to say a few words.
I'm not sure if my colleagues are currently available. I'm State Representative Jonathan Steinberg. We look forward to today's presentation and our ongoing collaboration with BioCT. We've had conversations even earlier today about trying to enlist new members and new legislators to the caucus, and perhaps having a conversation along the lines of today's discussion, which is many of the advances and innovations that have occurred thanks to companies here in Connecticut with regard to COVID. So we imagine we'll have several further conversations with you all about how the legislature can work collaboratively with efforts to grow the bioscience industry here in the state of Connecticut. Thank you.
Thank you.
This is Senator Christine Cohen, and I just want to echo my colleague, Representative Steinberg's comments. Excited to be here today and take part in, hearing more about what's going on in terms of innovation and research around COVID-19. We're certainly faced with unprecedented times here, and what's been coming out of the bio industry has just been truly remarkable. So grateful for all of your hard work, eager to hear more about what you have going on, and just grateful to be here, and hope that we can maintain connections so that we can help the industry thrive going forward from a legislative standpoint. So thanks again to BioCT and all of the companies that are here today.
Anyone else from the caucus here? So thank you, Senator Cohen and Representative Steinberg. We really, really appreciate your support, the chair's support, and the entire legislature for supporting this very important industry. Before we get started, I'd like to take a moment and introduce Sho Islam, who is the Director of Business Development for Life Sciences at Advanced CT. Sho, would you like to say a few words?
Sure, I'll make it quick, Dawn. Hi, everyone, and thank you for joining us in this event. As Dawn mentioned, my name is Sho Islam. I am the Director of Business Development here at Advanced CT, specifically leading the life sciences sector. And for those who may not be aware, Advanced CT is a nonprofit organization that works closely in partnership with DECD, with partner organizations like BioCT, really to promote the state of Connecticut and many assets that it has. But for me, the focus is on life science to grow, retain, and attract life science businesses to see the benefits of doing business here in Connecticut. So if anyone has any questions or wanted to learn more or see how we can maybe work together, please feel free to reach out at your convenience. Dawn?
Thank you very much, Sho. So I'd like to now introduce Kevin Baroque from Pharma, who is leading the webinar today. So Kevin, take it away.
Thanks very much, Dawn. Would like to thank BioCT, Advanced CT, and the members of the Bioscience Caucus for hosting our presentation today. Also want to give a special thank you to Senator Cohen and Representative Steinberg for being able to join us. During our discussion, we will learn about the scientific breakthroughs that our participating companies have made in the fight against the COVID-19 pandemic, along with the impact the industry's work has made in Connecticut. We'll be hearing from David Herring of Pfizer, George Lotto of Alexion, and Dr. Cyril Kuhn of Boehringer Ingelheim. Just a quick note before I turn it over to David to start. David has a hard stop at 2:20, so if there is time, we'll try to take questions from him after his presentation. Otherwise, please hold questions for the other panelists until the end when we'll have some Q&A time. So with that, turn it right over to David.
Thank you so much. Thanks so much for having me. Good afternoon. I'm happy to be here. I'm David Herring, the Regional President for North America for Pfizer Vaccines. It's an incredibly exciting time to be in vaccines. One of my friends has called it the Super Bowl of vaccines. We don't typically get the amount of attention we're currently getting, but we're so thankful for our ability to have a potential product that could have a significant impact on this pandemic. It's good to be with you. I've spent time at our Groton facility in Connecticut. Pfizer's relationship with Connecticut is one we truly value. It's played an important role in our work in bringing a COVID-19 vaccine to market. And so we're really excited to be here today. Thanks for having me. As you can imagine, it's a pretty significantly busy time. This next slide here does have the disclaimer. We are talking about an investigational vaccine, one that's not approved. It is subject to regulatory authorization or approval. I will go through some of the clinical trial study data that we have. And of course, as we move forward, some of this is subject to change. So on this slide, I just want to give you a quick overview of the Pfizer-BioNTech COVID-19 program. If you look along the bottom of this slide, you can see just how much progress has been made in such a little time, right? In some ways, I think we probably all feel like we've been either working virtually for a very long time or that it's never going to end. But if you look back for us, a lot of this really started in March. So we partnered with BioNTech, signed a letter of intent way back in March. And from there, it's been a race ever since. So starting in April, we had a phase 1/2 clinical trial start in Germany. We then added a phase 1/2 clinical trial in the US. We used data from 4 different candidates. We down selected them to 1, went forward with that 1, starting our large phase 2b/3 trial at the end of July. We then took all of that data. We had a readout November 18th. We saw that all of the endpoints had been met. And so 2 days later, we requested an emergency use authorization from the FDA, which has been submitted. And this week on Thursday, so just a few days from now, there is an advisory committee to the FDA to look at that emergency use application. And soon thereafter, we would hope to hear from the FDA one way or the other. So if you go to the next slide, I'll talk a little bit about the clinical trial. A lot of folks have asked about what we've done, where are we in the data that we presented. This is a very high level snapshot of our phase 3 clinical trial. On the next slide, I will explain how many study, how many people we enrolled, et cetera. But I wanted to walk you through a few things. On the left, you have the safety data. So a randomized subset of more than 8,000 participants, 18 years and older, are included in the safety data. And you can see when we looked at solicited adverse events greater than or equal to 2% in frequency after the first or second dose, the only ones were fatigue at 3.8% and headache at 2% following dose 2. So consistent with earlier results, older adults tended to report fewer and milder solicited adverse events following the vaccination. And Pfizer and BioNTech are working to submit this data from the study to a peer-reviewed journal once the full analysis of the data is completed. And the independent data monitoring committee has not reported any serious safety concerns related to the vaccine. On the right side of the slide, you can see the efficacy data. The efficacy data, as we presented publicly, this 95% vaccine efficacy, that's overall for the endpoint of the trial. That endpoint was calculated for people who were testing positive to COVID-19 7 days after the second dose without evidence of prior infection. And you can see folks who got the candidate vaccine, 8 reported getting COVID-19 versus those who got the placebo, 162 reported getting COVID-19, giving us the 95% vaccine efficacy. You can look down through the different rows below. We've broken down the vaccine efficacy by different age groups, also by ethnicity, and you can see how it flows through, and all of the numbers are all consistent with that overall 95%. So now if you go to the next slide, I can tell you a little bit about this trial. It's a very large trial. So to date, we have almost 44,000 participants. They are enrolled across 150 sites in 6 countries. I'm proud to say, including Connecticut. So, and I was just going to look. So we have 39 states in the U.S. That have different trial participants, and Connecticut is one of them. Our trial participants are now aged 12 to 85, and 30% in the U.S. are ethnically diverse. So you can see just how broad this trial has been. one of the things that we've been asked along the way is, okay, with the speed that we're working, are we cutting corners? And I think this trial is testament to that answer, which is no, we're not cutting corners. We're still going through all of the different elements that we need to prove that the vaccine is safe and efficacious. It's a very large scale trial. We've just been able to do it this quickly with the support of the FDA. We pretty much have instantaneous access to the FDA in terms of reviewing our protocols, getting us moving forward, as do the other manufacturers. So if you go to the next slide, I'll just talk a little bit about Pfizer's manufacturing capabilities. As we get closer and closer to a potential EUA, the shift and the focus shifts from does the vaccine work and is it safe to how are we going to make it at scale and how are we going to distribute it to all of the world. So Pfizer has a very rich manufacturing capability. We have more than 28,000 colleagues. We supply vaccines currently to over 165 countries. If you look beyond our vaccine capabilities and you look at sterile injectables, that's another 17,000 colleagues in 23 facilities across 11 countries. And we produce more than 23 billion doses of medication per year, including more than 200 million vaccine doses and 1.5 billion sterile units. So this is why we also feel the partnership between BioNTech and Pfizer is so strong. BioNTech is the German biotech company that brought the mRNA technology into the vaccine. You then couple that with Pfizer's extensive manufacturing, clinical trial, drug development capabilities, and that's what's allowed us to get to the point where we are today. So the next slide, let's talk a little bit about supply and allocation in the US. So what we've said publicly is we have the potential to supply tens of millions of doses here in 2020. That is still the plan, and more than 1 billion doses next year in 2020-21. We're only, of course, providing the product if it meets the technical success and approval or authorization by regulatory authorities. Related to that, we entered a supply agreement with the US government for 100 million doses this summer. And, excuse me, in that contract, there's an option for an additional 500 million doses through a follow-on contract. So we're continuing to have a strong collaboration with Operation Warp Speed, CDC, FDA, all of these different government agencies as we prepare for the hopeful distribution of the vaccine. The US government has also announced that it will supply the vaccines for free. So they've procured vaccine from Pfizer and other manufacturers, and they will advance the distribution plans in partnership, like I said, with the CDC, and they'll prioritize doses according to the recommendations by ACIP, which is the Advisory Committee on Immunization Practices. They actually voted last week and recommended that phase 1A is frontline healthcare workers, as well as people working or living in long-term care facilities. So that's what happened last week. All right, so the next slide. So how is Pfizer planning to bring approved vaccine or authorized vaccine to market? So the vaccine has some unique storage requirements. And one of those is that it has to be stored at extremely cold temperatures to remain viable, right? We need the vaccine to stay viable and to be used. And so because of that, Pfizer is going to ship the product directly to the locations. And we've been working on a solution to this for a while. And the solution here is we have designed our own shipper. And in that shipper, there is a GPS tracking device that tracks the temperature and location of all these shippers. And that provides data back to this control tower that we have so we can actively monitor any of the product as it moves. And it's the same whether we move the product from the Europe into the US, or once it's here in the US or coming from some of our US facilities and it's moving out to the locations. This is, excuse me, this allows us to ensure the product stays at the right temperature, which is critical to make sure that we know it's viable when it reaches the end storage location. If you go to the next slide, just a little bit then about storage. As I mentioned, the product has to be stored at -70 degrees for the long term. There are 3 different ways you can store the product. You could put it in an ultra low temperature freezer for up to 6 months. So that's the first option on the left. That just keeps it completely frozen. You can use the thermal shipper that it came in. And so that is also keeping it at -70 degrees. And for 5 days, every 5 days, you can add dry ice. So this 15 to 25 degrees Celsius isn't correct. It's still stored at the same temperature as the ultra low temperature freezer. Or you can store it in a refrigerator at 2 to 8 degrees Celsius for 5 days. So when you use the product, you're going to thaw it, you're going to add diluent, and then you're going to administer it. But I just wanted to provide you that there are some different options for storing it. So it can stay 5 days in a normal refrigerator. You could stay up to 30 days re-icing every 5 days with dry ice in the thermal shipper, or up to 6 months in the ultra low temperature freezer. So that's one of the key components we've done. I just want to take a quick pause, a little bit outside of COVID specifically, and highlight our Groton site in Connecticut. We have a strong relationship between Pfizer and the state of Connecticut. Groton has been one of our premier R&D facilities. You can see it's an R&D center of excellence. We have more than 2,700 colleagues. It's one of our largest R&D sites. We also have a clinical research unit in New Haven with 70 colleagues. So a very strong footprint in Connecticut, one we're very proud of and very thankful to the state and for CT Bio for all of their help with fostering biotechnology in the state. So with that, I'm going to stop. I know I have to run in a minute, but if there's a quick question or two, I would be happy to take it.
Questions for David? Okay. Thank you, David. We really appreciate the information you shared with us today. All right. Now we are going to turn to George Lado with Alexion.
Hello there. Can everyone hear me?
Yes, we can.
Great. Is Dawn in the house? I don't see Dawn.
She's here.
Oh, okay.
Somewhere.
All right.
She's here. She had to jump off for a little bit. She'll be right back in.
Got it. So if I'm not mistaken, is this the function that we usually host at our place in New Haven, or is this another function?
I think it's another one, George. I think this is more of an outreach function.
Oh, okay. Okay. I know that there's a BioCT thing that we do at the end of the year. It's an annual thing that we do. And I didn't know if it was this or not. But no, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for your time. Really, really appreciate it and honored to be here to talk to you about Alexion. It's this place it's had a special place in my heart for the last 6 years. I joined the company January of 2015 with this mission of rare inspiration and changing lives. And back in 2015, we actually weren't what we deem ourselves as a rare company. We were ultra rare back in 2015. And so if you're familiar with what ultra rare is, it's disease that people have largely 20 in a million, right? So ultra rare. So we're talking, numbers of patients, 4 digits versus, David who works at Pfizer, and prior to Alexion, I was at Merck. We're serving millions of patients, whether it's diabetes or cholesterol, osteoporosis, et cetera. And one of the reasons that I was really attracted to a company like Alexion was because of the focus on ultra rare. And when you look at all of our products, they're first and only, right? So they aren't copycats. They aren't something that's an idea of someone else. I'm a big fan of Star Trek, and I think of Star Trek as sort of the final frontier in discovering these worlds. That's what an ultra rare and a rare disease company does by definition. They take a risk on something that not very many people would take a risk on, and it's usually a losing proposition. And when you find those patients who who don't have any hope, and you provide them hope. It's a really, really special thing. And I've been honored to be part of a company that is saving people's lives. And I'll talk to you about a couple of our products in a few minutes. But a little bit of history on the company. Founded in 1992 by two Yale alumni, Lenny Bell and Steve Squinto. Lenny Bell became the CEO, and a number of failures and successes between 1992 and 2007. So 2007 is when we marketed our first product called Soliris for PNH, and that's something that both Lenny and Steve were working really, really hard towards achieving. And the disease is called PNH, paroxysmal nocturnal hemoglobinuria. And there were, like I said, a number of failures and successes that they saw. And in 2000, they started to see some really interesting data. This particular disease is all around blood disorder. And what was happening was for anyone that was diagnosed, and it literally take you about 6 to 7 years on average diagnosis. So you'd get misdiagnosed for this, misdiagnosed for that. You're treated, the tests are negative, and you go on to the next thing, and you hope whatever treatment they're giving you works. Well, what happened between the time that we discovered the drug and the data, we have some. We found that once you're diagnosed, a third of the patients are dying within 5 years. All right. So prior to Soliris, it just doesn't happen anymore. So we discovered Soliris. We marketed Soliris in 2007. Once people were infusing this product, and you have to infuse it every 2 weeks, people were living. People were playing basketball. They were lifting weights. They were going to work. And so this is the first of 5 products. We have 5 products with 9 indications. And that was the first with 1 indication in 2007 that started saving people's lives. And so these other 5 products that we have are largely exactly in the same space, whether it's metabolics, whether it's neurology, et cetera. And so again, being part of a company that is that works on products like these are fantastic. So let me take it back to Alexion 92. We're founded in New Haven, right? We've always been in New Haven, and continue to support New Haven. So we started out in Science Park, if you know where that is, in New Haven, and in the late 90s moved to Cheshire because we were getting too big for Science Park, and we moved to Cheshire up until 2016. We plopped our headquarters right in the middle of downtown New Haven, right at 100 College. And our headquarters was there up until January of 2018. We announced in 17 that we were moving headquarters to Boston. And I by the way, I still live in New Haven, still work in New Haven, and the shock to the system for our New Haven community was one that was impactful, I'll have to admit. And for one who spends there 5 days a week, and for one who spends time in the restaurants and walking around downtown, it was depressing when people said, "Hey, you guys, Alexion's leaving town. What's going on?" We went from 900 people to about 400 people by the middle to third quarter of 2018. And I ended up in a Chamber of Commerce meeting in 2018. And what I told the mayor at the time and the chamber was that it was my favorite Mark Twain quote, which was the rumors of Alexion's death are greatly exaggerated. And what I told them was that we've got 400 people. We're going to bulk back up to 200 people, and we're going to bring in a contracted workforce that's going to support the community. And fast forward, by the end of the third quarter at the same chamber, I gave them the numbers and gave them the metrics on where Alexion was. And we continue to support the community. We support the theater, what happens at in the park. every year, every summer. We've been supporting Connecticut, Greater New Haven for quite a bit of time. Take that and start to fast forward, and we now get to COVID. We have to continue to do business. We have essential workers. One of the things that I committed and mentioned to the Chamber of Commerce was that we were investing in in expanding of our wet lab on the 4th and 5th floor of the 100 College facility, and we've actually completed that. We completed it last week, and that's bringing additional essential workers. But what COVID put us through was, one, we sent all of our non-essentials home very quickly. We had 200 to 250 essentials that were working the labs. We have a number of we have process development lab and we have R&D labs, and I'll talk about who's in the building and what they do. But what we also did was provide premium bonuses to our essential workers, right? We thought that, one, we're worried about your safety, and because of that, and because of that, we're going to work an environment that starts to think about how do we treat you and make sure that you're tested on a daily basis. And if you have the virus, we'll take care of you. But if you're staying and you're healthy, we want to make sure that we're covering you for taking a risk, right, on your safety. So we provided premiums to our essential workers in the May timeframe. And so who's in the building? I mean, this is why I continue to say that Alexion is vibrant and Mark Twain is right. Our R&D Center of Excellence is still there. It runs out of New Haven. Our technology, which I run today, runs globally out of New Haven. Our human resources operations, so who we staff, how we staff, orientation around the world is run by an HR operations sitting in New Haven, and we also have a number of back office activities that are financial, tax, treasury, accounting, etc. So a number of really good things happening at Alexion. We're still hiring. I just hired 2 people this week. So they're in orientation now. We continue to hire and support the community, and we'll continue to do so. And hopefully, we'll be there for quite a long time. Look, I look forward to continuing working in the area. I got to tell you, the restaurants in New Haven. I'm a New Yorker, born and bred in the Bronx, and I never thought I'd say there's anything that can touch the city. I've come to love that little place in New Haven. I don't know if any of you live there or grew up there, but it's got a special place in my heart, as does the company. And it's a place that I think we'll continue to support for quite a long time. This comes from the CEO. This comes from the executive committee, and hence this is why you see people like Jack and PJ and other people continuing to call you and one give you assistance, but also ask for assistance. Thank you, Kevin.
Great, thank you very much, George. I do want to take a minute out to turn to Joni Arvey from Bristol Myers Squibb, who's our Pharma Task Force Chair, just to recognize a few folks who are also on the Zoom today. Joni?
Good afternoon. Thank you, Kevin. I know we had some introductions at the beginning of the hour, but I just want to make sure that we recognize Senator Hartley, Senator Hoag, Senator Kushner, Representative Iaccarino, Representative Cheeseman, Representative Comey, and Representative Ali Brennan for being on. And I apologize if I've missed anyone. If anyone else from the caucus is on and wants to say hello to the group, please do so right now.
Sure. This is Senator Tony Huang, the co-chair with Senator Cohen, Representative Steinberg, and Representative Iaccarino. So we're excited to be here, and thank you for all the great companies and their work. We're here to support you.
Thank you, and thank you for being on today. Anyone else from the caucus like to say hello, or perhaps someone I missed who...
I just want to say how pleased I am to be here with not just a company in my district, but on my block. So that's Boehringer. And happy to hear their presentation today. And so far, this has been a great meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator.
Hi, this is Representative Yacarino, North Haven. I just want to say thank you to all the companies, all the employees, all the scientists, obviously, and the Bioscience Caucus and BioCT. Something we vitally need, and we've needed for years. And thank you for everything you're doing, especially more so today with COVID.
Thank you, Representative Yacarino. And Kevin, I'll turn it back to you to introduce our third and final speaker today from BI.
Sorry, folks, Joan Hartley. I just wanted to say thanks for bringing us together, and to all my colleagues who are on for the Bio Caucus. Very important. This is going to be a pillar in our economic growth as we go forward. And I would like to just echo what has been said by my colleagues, that we are here to work with you and promote however we can. But thanks for bringing us together, and thanks for this presentation.
Thank you, Senator Hartley.
And maybe just a little housekeeping issue. If you do have questions that come up, please feel free to use the chat box. We'll try to answer them as best as we can.
Kevin, I'll swing it back to you.
Okay, with that, I want to turn to Dr. Cyril Kahn of Boehringer Ingelheim. Doctor?
Thank you very much to the BioCT organization for having me today. Thank you, Kevin. And thank you to Pharma and our esteemed representative and senators to attend this meeting. I hope the technology will work. My network is fairly weak today. I guess my kids are working hard, I'm sure. But so let's the next slide. Just wanted to take this opportunity to not only tell you about what we are doing with regard to COVID-19, but also talk to you about who we are and what we do if you don't know the company. There's a bit of a delay in the slide, so I'm assuming you're already on the next slide, Kevin, or sure. We are a fairly unique company in the sense that we are a family-owned company. The Boehringer family is owning the full company. We are headquartered in Ingelheim, hence the name Boehringer Ingelheim, which is located not too far from Frankfurt. As a company, we have a net sale of a bit more than 20 billion dollars, sorry, and are present in more than 150 countries. Company 50,000 employees. In the US, we are headquartered in Ridgefield, Connecticut, where we oversee all operations that include not only the human pharmaceutical business, but also animal health and biopharmaceutical manufacturing. We are a fairly large CMO in the sense of manufacturing monoclonal antibodies. Working on this is located in California. Our headquarters in the US is in Ridgefield.
You just lost him?
I think we may have just lost him.
Oh, he's back.
Okay, I'm back. Sorry again. I was expecting there would be some issues. I'm on the phone as well, so if we need to switch back and forth from the computer to the phone, let me know. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes, okay. So we are headquartered in Ridgefield, Connecticut, where at our site we have about a bit more than 2,000 employees that are working there in all different functions, from early research to development to marketing, et cetera. We are investing. We have invested more than $400 million in capital investment in 2010 in this site. We are working with about 400 direct, service suppliers in Connecticut. So very well implanted and feeling very privileged to be in Connecticut. We have there a care foundation, BI Cares Foundation, which is also the largest private foundation in Connecticut. So I see you on the next slide. This is what we do in particular with regard to research and development in Richfield. We are working on metabolic diseases, particularly kidney disease and liver disease, such as NASH. We are working in immunology, autoimmune diseases, skin, gut, and lung, with our franchise on IPF and lung diseases, fibrotic diseases. We are working in cancer immunology, and all of these indications are using antibody drug therapeutics as one of the modality. We are a small molecule company as well, but we are doing also antibody work. I am leading a group called Research Beyond Borders. This group is meant to explore novel areas of science, such as regenerative medicine, how to bring back tissues or organs in a fully functional manner. But I'm also leading a group of people working on infectious disease, hence the role I took into leading and coordinating all activities against COVID-19 globally, whether it's in Europe or in the US. If you can go to the next slide, which leads me to COVID-19, and you've seen those epidemiology slides that are always, I would say, obsolete before you can finish them, but wanted to, bit of those statistics. More than 60 million cases worldwide, about 2/3 having recovered, but unfortunately 2% of this population having died from this disease, about more than 1.4 million globally, and still 20 million active cases around the world. As you know, this disease had come to a certain steady state, if we can say, had been stabilized around July, but came back very active starting September. We have now more than 600,000 cases, new cases since then, and a bit more than 8,000 deaths per day due to this particular disease, again, globally. And most countries, North America, but probably Europe, have been in the second phase of lockdown, taking more precautions, such as social distancing, to try to manage such kind of increases. If you go to the next slide, our response to this pandemic in BI, as well as all the pharmaceutical companies, has been, taken with a sense of urgency. This is a dramatic situation. It's an unprecedented situation. To unprecedented situation, you take unprecedented measures. So we've been looking, even so we are not a diagnostic company nor a vaccine company, we've been looking at what we could do to help and support finding novel options.
Give it a second. It looks like we just lost the doctor for a second.
Again, sorry for the disconnect. I'm back.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So not being a vaccine company nor a diagnostic company, we've put more effort where we believe we have some strengths, so particularly small molecule. And here we've decided to work in collaboration with the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation to use some of our legacy compounds against HIV and HCV and see whether some of them would be active against the coronavirus. We actually found early compounds that
Looks like we lost him again. Just bear with us. I think he'll pop right back.
While Dr. Cohen comes back on.
Here we go.
I'm back. Sorry again about that. Very poor connection. So we are working with the Gates Foundation with small molecule, but I wanted to focus today on the antibody work we've been doing with the DZIF in Germany, as well as the AMI Care Consortium, and other treatments now of the symptoms of COVID-19, whether it's the vascular permeability of the lung that derives toward, ARDS, acute respiratory disease syndrome, as well as the hypercon. The message I would like to give here is it is important, it is necessary that we find vaccines, but it's also very important that we come up with a full spectrum of therapeutic options, prophylactic options and therapeutic options. And the antibodies can not only be used therapeutically, but they also can be used preventively, as well as any compound in case of you actually get the disease and disease progressing toward the hospital, the ICU, and then going down the path of getting extremely life-threatening. So I don't think one answer will solve everything. I don't think the vaccines only will be the options. We need to get all possible options, not only preventive but also therapeutic. So on the therapeutic side, what we did, and if you can go to the next slide, was to identify quickly
We'll give him just a second.
So yes, thank you for your patience. To identify quickly, working with academic colleagues and partners, antibodies that would neutralize the virus. We were able to access patients from samples, get the B cells, find from those B cells of patients that had been previously infected, antibodies that they had made, select those antibodies for their potency, as well as their properties to be manufactured, because down the road, if you want a pharmaceutical product, you need to. And if I can continue, we are very pleased to announce that this antibody will be soon tested in patients, in ambulatory and hospitalized patients, in a prophylactic setting as well. We are thinking of having administration directly at the site of the infection, and we expect from this better onset of such antibody and better clearance of the virus and longer duration of action through an IV administration. And we are in active discussions with regulatory organizations, not only in Europe, but in the US, to get that clinical trial test started. If you can go to the next slide. And this will be my last slide. We are working on two compounds that are particularly, if you can move to the next one, sorry for the animation. Working on two particular compounds that we are very enthusiastic about because they really worked and act at the interface between the lung alveoli and the arteries that are in the lung and that are affected by this particular virus, whether it's by dissolving the fibrin at the alveoli place or in the blood, in the blood circulation to avoid the blood clot. That's a product called Authorized, which is so we are very enthusiastic about Actilyze use to prevent such kind of blood clot formation, but we're also looking at a compound called trypsis-6 inhibitor, BI-198, that will prevent the vascular permeability that leads toward RDS, acute respiratory disease syndrome, and compounds will move forward for clinical development before the end of the year. Actually, the inhibitor has already entered phase 2 and is currently tested in patients in 10 different locations in the US, another 10 around the world. So we are expecting very for both of these compounds. So we are not only acting on symptoms, also acting against the virus through our antibody that we expect will be efficient not only for therapeutic use, but also for preventive use. Last slide was about wishing you to, encouraging you to take social distancing measures, your mask before we have options for everybody.
Thank you, Dr. Cohen. Kevin, at this point, I think I'm going to do a quick time check. We have 2:48. We have a 3 o'clock stop. So I'm going to open it up to questions. If anyone, members of the caucus who are on, who have questions at this time, we do have about 50 other participants on the line too, who are in the biotech and the pharmaceutical space. But I'd ask if members of the caucus had questions first. Feel free to raise your hand, type it into the chat, or feel free to ask it. I'll let some folks gather their thoughts. And one of my questions, and this could either be for Dr. Cohen or George, is besides the economic impact that our employees bring to Connecticut, in terms of the economic footprint that the vendors that Alexion and BI have, can you speak to what impact that those vendors bring to Connecticut, or at least your region? George or Dr. Cohen?
No, I heard you clearly, Joni. It is, are you talking about the impact of them coming to the community or serving the firm?
Serving the firm.
Oh, from my perspective, it's very impactful, right? So to have and again, this is pre-COVID, right? The world's changed quite considerably, and I think I actually have a different point of view. But prior to COVID, local access to vendors in terms of capacity when we needed to expand was it was something that was critical to our success. And so I've always had a group of suppliers, vendors, partners who were local, ready to serve the need, as well as remote, if I didn't have as short-term a need. But I would, my simple answer is simply yes. When I think about it today, it doesn't matter. It really doesn't, because I could frankly get served from Mars, right? Just if I've got a good internet line, I could get good service unless it's physical. I could get whatever service I need from anywhere. So, as a technologist, I actually look Silicon Valley, I look in Boston, I look at Yale, I look at Carnegie Mellon, right? And so that my aperture has expanded greatly based on my access to the best talent, agnostic to location.
I would say, Joni, I think in response to your question, that pharma has a profile of what the economic impact, if that's what you were asking, of having pharma companies located in Connecticut, what that trickles down to in terms of economics across the state, in terms of vendors and other suppliers. I know that they update that sheet every year, and it's significant.
Sure, and thank you, George and Anita. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention that we have other facility folks here in Connecticut on today. We have Paul Grammel from GSK, Kathy Belotis from Lilly, which is, I believe, down in Stamford now. And then we have Jen Hurst from BI, Ken Hisco from Pfizer, Jack Quinn from Alexion. So there is a lot of talent and there's a lot of industry and economic impact that the companies that we're talking about today bring to Connecticut. Is there any other questions? I see some folks in the chat thanking us for providing this presentation, and thank you, Senator Kushner, for your comments.
Tony, this is
Comey. Go ahead, Josh.
This is Josh. I could put the impact fact sheet for bios and pharma's impact in Connecticut into the chat room. I have a copy of that.
Okay, thank you. And there has been a couple questions about whether or not these slides are going to be made available. Unfortunately, to my knowledge, I don't know just yet. We can get back to you, but again, we have the state government affairs folks on from each of the companies who spoke, from BI, Pfizer, and Alexion. And those companies are more than able and wanting to sit down with members of the caucus, answer any questions you may have had. And one of the questions I would like to ask of the chairs is, especially with the elections, in terms of recruitment of new members to the caucus. Obviously, pharmaceuticals and biotech have a huge place in today's society. And again, given all the companies we have here in Connecticut, the research and innovation that we bring, how can we recruit and help you guys recruit new members of the legislature to the caucus and educate those members of who we are, and again, what economically we bring to the state? I don't know if any of the chairs are still on or any of the members.
I am. This is Senator Huang, and I think most important of all is raising awareness. I think the onset of COVID has affected everybody's lives, and the bioscience leadership, not just simply at Pfizer, but throughout all of our companies, is something that for new colleagues and existing colleagues, I've learned a lot from the leadership of Senator Hartley in my years in this building. And it is incumbent on us to also be spreading the good word. So I think being able to be aware of the great work that's being done and sharing that with our colleagues and getting it down on the grassroots, so that when legislation come forth, it's not a if, it's about how much we can help you contribute and keep you in our state and continue to grow and create jobs, create businesses. And again, I thank all of you for choosing Connecticut, and it's incumbent on us as legislators to get the word out and support you in your success.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, this
I think
is
it would be
Representative.
really interesting given the
Hello?
Go ahead, Representative
This is
Iacarino.
Representative Iacarino. Yes, I've been an advocate along with Senator Hartley for many, many years, and it's great to see so many members like Senator Cohen and Senator Huang and many members of the General Assembly that are a strong part of this, I think, such a vital industry for healthcare, jobs, economic growth in our state and our country and world. And it's all about conversation and having that conversation and having people listen and believe you. And now the evidence has shown that people are believing and we are participating, and many more members of the legislature and the public are participating. So it's really a conversation. It's data, it's information. It's more important now than ever. And I'm just so proud to be part of this team. And that's all. And thank you again for everything.
Yeah, and I would just echo those comments. I think it's so important to disseminate information to our colleagues, not only via us, in the information that we've learned from all of you, but also from you directly. And so to the extent that we can get some of that information, like Josh was saying, he would share some of the economic impact for the state with us here today, getting that information out to all of the legislators in the building, and having them recognize what the impact is, not only to their district and their region. And I would venture to say that this sector industry has impacted every single legislator and their district to one extent or another. But what it's doing for the state of Connecticut, and we're seeing tremendous growth, leaps and bounds, and what that means, for the state, but how we can help you in a collaborative way. What do we need to do to see the industry continue to thrive and grow? What do we need to do from a transportation standpoint? What do we need to do from a manufacturing standpoint, from an education standpoint, in terms of educating the workforce that will work best and suit your needs? And what do we need to do from a public health standpoint? So each of us, in addition to being members of this caucus, sit on committees, chair various committees, and we can, sort of bring the good information and the good word to those committees that eventually take shape as legislative proposals. I know, as Senator Huang said, Senator Hartley's done a tremendous amount of work via the Commerce Committee. I'm also a vice chair of that committee now, pleased to be there. And I think so many of my colleagues here, Representative Iacarino have been involved in bringing a lot of that legislation forward. And all of that is because of the good lines of communication that have been open between industry industry and the legislature. So as long as we can continue that and make those connections for other legislators, I think we can effectively move proposals through even in a very strange year as we're about to head into now with a new session.
Thank you, Senator Cohen. And I was thinking exactly that is 2021 is going to be a very interesting and challenging session for everyone, folks who are within the legislature and those of us who work with you, as well as advocacy in patient groups. So it will be a telling year, but we are here to be partners. Pharma partnered with Connecticut on this opportunity to present to the caucus as well as other members. And it's an opportunity for these two groups to collectively discuss a lot of opportunity and some obstacles we have here. Connecticut, they do a lot of work, and Dawn's on the line, to recruit talent. And what that means is obviously we have to have some great educational institutions for those children. We have to have transportation. We have to, again, be able to attract talent. So there's so many different things that can be a part of this conversation. And I think I'm speaking for, members of Pharma and Connecticut that's what we want to accomplish. And that's what we want to accomplish by having today's second part roundtable. I know we're going up against 3 o'clock, so I want to make sure there was no other questions from members or.
I have Rep. Cheeseman here. I have a couple of very quick questions. First of all, pivoting off what Senator Cohen said, in terms of developing the talent pool, not so much at the higher levels, master's, PhD, but in terms of those, skilled, maybe associate's degree people, look at partnering along the lines of the manufacturing pipeline with the workforce investment boards. I know my Eastern Workforce Investment Board is nationally recognized. They're developing a healthcare pipeline, but I'd love if the caucus and BioCT could look at that, because I think particularly for many young people, this is a great step forward. It doesn't mean you're not going to go further, but there are obviously positions there. And the second thing is the incoming ranking member on finance, revenue, and bonding. I'd be interested in looking at tax policy in Connecticut as far as development of the biosciences sector is concerned. Are we offering the correct incentives? Are there things other states are doing that we could emulate that would make us even more attractive? So as I say, you've got a hard stop, but those are two areas that I think are worth pursuing. And thank you so much for doing this today. And I'm very proud, wearing my other hat. John Burkhart, who runs the Groton Pfizer plant, is my board president at the Children's Museum. So I feel I have a special connection to all of this going on. So thank you.
Thank you, Representative. Ken, I see you smiling. I do know Ken did say that he has his economic footprint for Fizer. So if anyone did have interest in receiving that too, I know Josh could probably link it.
Yep, absolutely.
Thank you. Kevin, final comments, or Dawn on behalf of Connecticut?
Just want to thank everyone for coming out today, and hopefully it was a informative discussion, and look forward to being able to update folks in the near future.
Thank you, Kevin. Is Dawn still on?
Hi, this is Kelly Gibson with BioCT. I'll just jump in and say thank you very much to all who participated today. We couldn't be more proud of the outstanding work that's going on here in Connecticut, and we look forward to a very productive 2021. So thank you, everyone.
Yeah, this is Show. Just to jump on behalf of Advanced CT. We're here anytime you have an opportunity for companies who may be interested in expanding or locating to Connecticut. Please feel free to send them our way. We'll be more than happy to provide that concierge service that's needed. So here to help.
Thank you, everyone, for participating.
Thank you.
All right.
Be well.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks all.